More often than not, people assume there is an inherent divide between the modern science and the spirit science. Modern science, which deals with the empirical data, clinical trials, result-based methodologies, seems to be diametrically opposite to the spirit science, which deals with mysticism, energy, healing, and transcendence of senses. Whereas the true Adhyatma or the spirituality encompasses all aspects, those that can be measured, those that cannot be measured. And there are few people who embody these two seemingly diametrically opposite binary opposition values into their own being, truly becoming the point of amalgamation, truly being the beacon of light for those who seek real answers in life. Today I have a guest who is a very dear friend of mine, Vinnith Pullavarayar, a doctor by profession, but is also a Veda mantra teacher and a Shaiva agama teacher. Let's hear from him. How does he journey in this life with these beautiful components in his personality, and know from him about Veda mantras, mysticism, and the Tantra as a part of the many series that we're going to present. Let's head over to meet him in person and ask him some important questions for the beginning of this series.
Om Sahana Bhavato Sahanau Bhunakto Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namaste.
Namaste, welcome Vinnit. So, shall we begin?
Yes.
Vinnit?
Sure.
So, can you please tell us what is your background?
So I'm Vinit from Malaysia. I'm born in Malaysia, and I am a doctor, so I did MBBS, but the Vedas and Shaiva agamas, Tantra has always been an interest, parallel interest of my medical profession as well. Mm-hmm. And concurrently, I do teach the Vedas and Tantra, Veda mantras, and simple applicable aspect of Shaiva agamas to those who are interested aspirants. And I gain joy, I would say, in spreading awareness.
Right.
Yes, on ancient scriptures related to our tradition.
Yes. So this is actually one of the reasons why we are doing the series with you. In the mantra yoga, we have so many different aspects that it is a whole world by itself. So we're going to concentrate on the part of the Vedic side, and then build up into the other aspects of the Tantra and the mantra science altogether. So Vinnit, can you help us understand some very basic preamble of all of this mantra yoga? Okay, what are mantras from the Vedic standpoint of view?
Okay, so when we talk about Veda mantras, they may differ to other forms of recitation, which may take form of shlokas or ashtakas or sahasranama.
Yes.
In the sense that Vedic mantras or Vedic recitation has a lot of other discipline or rules pertaining to it. Mm-hmm. So for that, we have to understand the genesis of the Vedas. Mm-hmm. So when we say Vedas, we are not really talking about a bookish form of scriptural knowledge which we read and attempt to dissect with the intellect.
Yes.
Yes. As you would know, in the way the ancients explored scriptures or knowledge, or the way knowledge was conveyed in the form of scriptures, was mainly sound based.
Yes.
So when I say sound based, these scriptures were not scripted by anyone. It was not authored. It was not born from the intellect or mind of someone. Contrary to the popular beliefs that the scriptures were authored at a particular period of time, and that is why the Vedas are referred to as a Paurusheya, non-human origin.
Right.
Yes. So to understand, maybe if I give an analogy, it will give a better illustration. So sound, what do we exactly mean by this sound potential? So the entire universe is in a form of vibrations, right? And vibration has a form.
Right.
So everything that we perceive in the cosmos as a particular form has its underlying geometry.
Right.
And that geometry is born from the sound. Or I would just say the sound and the geometry, the shape is one.
Yeah, it's complementary, another form of expression, right?
Yes. So this is why they in Tantra they always say reflecting. So maybe we'll come back to this later, but we always see Tantra as the application of the Vedas. So they always say that the deity and the mantra is one, they are no different.
Yes.
Or even in the Bhakti Sadhana, they always say that the name of the Lord is none other than the Lord. So what we have to understand is, let's say we take a rock. We take a rock and we throw it on a water body, like a pond. So the point of contact between the rock and the water body will initiate vibration. And vibration means sound energy. And that point of contact transmits as a wave pattern on the water body. So that wave pattern has a particular shape, and that is the geometry that we are talking about. So various geometries, when they consolidate, that is what we see as the body of the universe. Yes, including ourselves or whatever that we perceive is due to its underlying vibration.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, this is a very beautiful understanding of the mantra yoga at a very higher point of view. Can you please explain what makes it so different from a generic form of mantra yoga practice?
Right.
When we say a Vedic mantra or a Vedic mantric lineage, what makes it so different and authentic?
Right. So given the analogy, so we understand that the geometry is like this skeleton to the body we refer to as the universe. So my framework now is only due to the underlying skeletal framework that I have. Right. So the muscles or whatever, the muscles and the skin, everything is attached to the skeleton. So similarly, the entire universe is reverberating in these sounds. So why is it important to adhere to the particular rules that are set? Is because these denote the way in which the mantras were received.
Yes.
So the ancient sages who were very advanced in their spirituality, they were able to tap into the cosmic knowledge or the akasha. Akasha is the form of element which is reverberating, the form of reverberation or vibration. So when they received a particular truth from the cosmos, I would, in today's contemporary term, we would say equate it to downloading a particular information. Right. So when they downloaded a particular truth, they received it in a series of sounds. And why sounds? Because I've given the entire structure of the universe underlies in its sound form. So they received the truths in the form of sounds, and these sounds had very particular characteristics. So they were represented by very particular aksharas or syllables, and they had to be adhered to the particular swaras. They had a particular meter, chandas. So when the sages received these sounds, they envisioned the truth in tandem to these sounds. So we refer to the sages who received a particular knowledge as a mantra drashta, meaning one who envisions the mantra. So in vision, we should not misunderstand as direct, sight.
Yes.
What it means that he has seen the entire truth of the mantra. Like today, when we quote something, we say that we have seen the hardship of life. I've seen
it's
someone's
an insight.
Yes.
Right. It's inborn by your comprehension of that truth.
Yes, exactly. So, and another question may arise: how can a sound invoke a realization within a person? So you have to understand that the mantras were not at an intellectual level; they were realizations.
Right.
And the sages who received a particular mantra, now that we are referring to, they taught the mantra in exact form which they received it.
Right.
So that when the disciple recites, he tunes himself with that frequency and he gains the potential to realize that truth experientially. So again, an analogy. So how can sound, because the way we learn something is intellectual. We use sight, we use memory, right? So how can sound invoke a realization? So maybe another analogy would be, let's say someone is crossing the road. He's not aware of the traffic, and a vehicle is about to hit him, and the vehicle will naturally stop, the driver will stop, and let's say he honks. When he honks, the bystander or the person who is yes. So just from that sound, various forms of knowledge gets awakened within him. It happens in a split, maybe a microsecond, right? So there's no intellectual dissection there. He doesn't need to intellectually or use his logic to decipher what that honk would actually translate to. Just by that mere honk, his whole system realizes the potential of a danger. He gets an adrenaline rush, he gets into a fight and flight reaction, right? His heartbeat increases and he gets into a survival mode.
Right.
Yes, he suddenly gains enormous amount of energy, and he probably leaps or jumps or rolls something. So where's that knowledge coming from? It's just from the trigger of that sound. So this is just to show that mere sound can invoke a lot of potential within us. And it does not need to go through the logic. Because what we refer to as logic or intellect is simply whatever that we use our mind to understand something is based on what we have already been introduced to. For example, if I ask someone to think of a new color today, they won't be able to do that. Let's say I ask someone to close his eyes and think of a new color, they would not be able to do that. They can only think of colors which they have perceived. So that is the limitation of the mind. So the mind cannot explore or comprehend something which it has not been exposed to.
First introduction of any such experience, like a schema which we refer to, right, can also come from higher intelligence. And I think that is what you're referring to, where the insight gives you a very different dimensional understanding, and that itself is the whole ambit of the sound when it comes to akshara. Very beautifully you explained the expanse of the whole mantra yoga. So I'm going to still direct the question a little more towards the Vedic aspect, because even when I teach the mantra yoga, we focus more on the aksharas, on the aspect of the light of it and the pronunciation. So till there we are together, you know. But what focuses in a little more specialty area is that swaras. Right? The rules of the swaras, and even there I'm a student, I have no expertise on that. And which is why my question to you is, how do swaras occupy a prominence in the practice of the mantras?
So when we say swaras, it basically means a particular arrangement of notes. So the swaras are represented by the aksharas or syllables. So in Vedas, we generally identify three, mainly the udata, svarita and anudata, the high, mid and low pitch, which got expanded to the 7 notes in music. So this is the pattern in which the sages received these sounds. So they must be recited in a particular swara. It will sound staccato, it wouldn't sound rhythmic, it might not be even pleasing to the ears, because we have to always understand that the Vedas are not human centric. So they have to recite in a particular way, because the purpose of the Veda mantra is to realize that particular truth which was experienced by the particular rishi. So every Veda mantra or portion of the particular Vedas had a particular rishi pertaining to it. So that's why swaras are very much important in the Vedas, and the importance of the swara is also explained in an Upanishad. The Taittiriya Upanishad speaks about it. Speaks about various the importance of the swaras. It talks about it's called Shikshavalli. So it talks about how should a student approach the lesson. So it says that a student should learn the Vedas pertaining to the matra, the balam, the swara, and the akshara shuddhi. So
if we can expand, just because this is also for the layman, so if you can just expand and give an explanation very briefly against each of these parameters you said.
So
matra.
Matra is the duration. Duration. So how each akshara, each sound has to put it simple, each sound has a particular duration to it. Yes, because some sounds are a combination of more than one individual sounds.
Right, right.
So when they are combined, their duration is naturally long.
Okay.
Yes, like for example, when you say Goshala, we can't say Goshala.
Yeah,
the O is
Goshala.
naturally long.
Like,
yes, so that is an example of matra. Balam is the emphasis of the force. So I think that we have in Sanskrit is the Mahaprana. So some aksharas must be pronounced in a forceful manner,
yeah.
and the meaning will totally differ.
Yes.
Yes, to how drastic. So let us say we are talking about, I use this example because it's one of the best examples that I can find.
Yeah.
Let's say Medha, okay, Medha Shakti, the
Yes.
power of retention of memory or intelligence. So let's say someone says Medha, emphasizing the dha, then it attunes to the actual intended meaning. Let's say someone doesn't emphasize the dha and says da instead, Medha, that will mean fat. So when someone says Medha Devi instead of Medha Devi, the meaning, the reality that is created is the Devi pertaining to fatness instead of the Devi pertaining to wisdom or intellect.
Yes.
So that is why every sound is important, and this is not about bhakti or whether God will accept. This is a particular science.
Right.
So and it's, I'm not saying that the Vedas are the only way to approach or the only way to attain, but those who are interested to use these mantras, especially the Veda mantras, they must be aware of these rules.
Right.
Because it can, it can produce some undesirable effect or probably no effect at all. The main thing would be that maybe someone may not be able to fully experience that beauty of the mantra, which should be a waste.
Physics of that particular science.
Yes, exactly.
So you have to use the way they are engineered.
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
So matra, balam.
Then sama santanaha means the continuity, the continuity of the mantra, the places where you take a pause, because every verse, every mantra which was received, they were received in a particular meter. A meter means a particular verse will only have a particular number of aksharas.
Right.
So every mantra which has this particular aksharas in it will be classified under a particular meter. So that is one example of the Gayatri mantras that we have. So generally today people, they say that there's a Shiva Gayatri, Rudra Gayatri. So when we say Rudra Gayatri or Ganapati Gayatri, what they are referring to is, this is a mantra pertaining to that particular deity, and this mantra has that particular aksharas which will match with the Gayatri Chandas. So the Tat Savituhu, Savita Gayatri that we recite today is for Surya. So when we generally say Gayatri mantra today, it is not necessarily pertaining to a Devi called Gayatri, but the Chandas which is Gayatri.
Right.
And the common Gayatri mantra that we are speaking of today is referring to Surya, Lord Surya, who is seen as Savita. Yes. So that is the, so matra balam sama santanaha.
Okay. So, I'm just going to make it a little bit more in detail about your experience as well. When did you get into this sort of science of Vedic practice? When did you begin your practice?
I began quite late. So it was back in 2015 probably. So I follow Swami Sri Satya Sai Baba. Right? So I just got to know through a fellow devotee that he wanted everyone to learn Rudram. That was a very vague statement which got stuck in my mind, and I took it for among the many things which he mentioned. This somehow stuck very close to my heart, and I have no idea why. So when he said that everyone should learn Rudram, I took it very personally. I felt responsible for it. So I attempted to learn Rudram, not even knowing what it was. And with seeking and with a lot of trial and error, so I was attempting to self-study, self-learn with videos, and all those got me to recite it in a not completely proper manner. Means I was not trained properly. And when I realized the mistakes I was doing, then I had to undo. So the process of undoing was
a little bit tougher.
Yes, it was a big burden. It was ego crushing, but it bore fruit. It bore fruits which probably is very much helpful now because I've undergone the process of making a mistake, undoing it, and learning it the proper way.
So you know why and where people make
yes,
mistakes.
exactly. Somehow,
I completely
Yes.
agree with you on this, because I have learned Sanskrita from a very young age. So you remember when I approached you, okay, let's start the Vedic chanting, how you corrected me for those mistakes, because you kind of know it and you're used to hearing it and understanding it from your perspective. You've done it so many times that when you understand that this is not the correct way of pronouncing the swaras especially, so it takes more time, more energy for you to undo it and then relearn it.
Exactly.
Whereas properly, maybe a learner or new beginner can get it in the first go itself, because there is no preconceived notion about it.
Yes, exactly. And probably that was why in the tradition they kept this process of learning Vedas particularly very strict. And one had to get enrolled in a particular gurukula, and he had to go undergo a particular initiation. And it was all recitation. Even now, if you go to any Vedic school, it's the core. When a child enters, the main thing is introduced to is perfection of the recitation. Perfection of recitation before he gets into the commentary or meaning or dissection, because that sound has to reverberate. It has to, that momentum must be created within him.
So when did that happen to you?
So in 2008, so I was very fortunate because I had many acharyas, many teachers from various parts of the world who guided me in very specific areas in Vedas. For example, my Sanskrita teacher, he's Sri Mohan from Kulim. He's freshly Malaysian, and so I attended his classes in 2018, and he's a graduate from Arsha Vidya Kurukulam, and he's a Sri Vidya Upasaka, very advanced Sri Vidya Upasaka, and he then introduced, so he, and the way he taught was, it was very raw, very fiery, but it worked very well for me. And he introduced the Devanagari script, and as well as the IAST, which is what enables me to teach those who are not familiar with the Devanagari script, because again, it always comes to the sound. So regardless of the script, the importance is to gain mastery over the sound aspect of the mantras. But it's always good to learn the Devanagari script as well. And then a lot of Veda chanters from the Sri Satya Sai organization, they were helping me as well. There was a brother Satya, and in Malaysia they have a Vedic society. So a lot of them were pinpointing some errors, some swara mistakes which I was doing. And then I had the Vedic grammar. Vedic grammar, that was particularly taught by an acharya, Sri Maunish. So he's the author for Rudra Tattva, and he's come from the parampara of Shringeri.
Okay.
Yes. So his teacher was Acharya Sharat, Sharat, and from Shringeri tradition. So many teachers
contributed.
Who I would be always grateful to. So they shaped, and to a point where I felt confident to actually share and start, sharing awareness. I wouldn't really say teaching, but sharing the joy that I gain from learning Vedas to everyone else. Because when you attain some form of bliss and ecstasy which is beyond comprehension, beyond words, the first thing that you want to do is you want to share it.
Yes.
So initially, I thought it was a duty that we should do to guide others or teach others. But again, there's no real teacher, or in a real aspect, in a universal aspect, where we always believe that there's no teacher or student relation. It's just that we are expanding and we are sharing. So the way I see it is as a sharing. Let everyone experience, especially those who are interested, let everyone experience the bliss of this Vedas. And it dates back to a very ancient tradition. So it is something which is rooted in every one of us. The very land of Bharata, every land, probably every molecule, every ancient molecule has been exposed to some form of this Vedic recitation, which was rampant all over Bharata in the ancient times.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. And it's very inspiring to hear this, Vinit. I did not know this side of information from you, so I'm equally shocked. From 2018 to now, it's not such a long time, but
But the process was not easy. Yes, I
can
wanted to
only
drop it.
imagine.
Yes, I wanted to drop it. And as I said, it was merely from the grace of the great teachers, the way they shaped their patience, and also to allow your ego to be crushed,
Right.
be pulverized.
Of course.
Yes, that
No,
is
I
the
can
main.
totally
Yes,
relate with that.
yes.
So I'm going to skip to the part of the other expertise that you have, which is the Shaiva Tantra. So just for a common man's understanding, what is Shaiva Tantra?
So when we say Tantra, so a lot of misconceptions regarding it. But Tantra, simply put, is Vedas applied. Application. So if Vedas is the raw knowledge from the Akasha, again, it is non-human centric. So when we make these knowledge or the truths revealed in the Vedas human centric, where we can apply it to experience various dimensions and levels of consciousness and to associate with deities. Right? So I see Tantra as a way where you play and build your relation with the deities. So it's a science where you use the core fundamentals of the Vedas and the mantras to invoke a deity, to crystallize a deity, a consciousness, and to relate the deity at a very personal level. And through that process, you understand the deeper spiritual wisdoms embedded in the Vedas and Tantra. So
Yes.
Tantra is very deity specific. Vedas may be seen as something which is abstract, but Tantra is very much deity specific. And quoting that is why we have many forms of Tantra, like Shaiva Tantra, Shri Vidya, and Vaishnava Tantra, because these will denote a particular, but the common aspect in all these different colors is that every deity is seen as the manifestation, or rather verily the same absolute reality. So the absolute reality, who is seen as Brahman in the Vedas or seen as Rudra in the Vedas, is seen as Sadashiva in the Shaiva Tantra. It is seen as Devi in Shri Vidya.
Right.
So it's so colorful that it enables everyone to explore rituals, explore the knowledge of the Vedas according to the deity they have preference or affinity to. So if someone likes Shiva, can very well, so it accommodates the needs and the preference of everyone in the culture without any bias.
So even in Shakta Tantra, there are many different types.
Yes. Probably, but since I'm not initiated or I am not an expert in Shakta Tantra,
Yeah, because there are so many of
yes.
lineages.
Even within Shakta Tantra, there are many deities a person becomes an upasaka to.
Yes. So we will restrict our conversation around Shaiva Tantra because that is what you have been given permission to talk about. So just tell me about any experience, personal experience that you've had with the practice of Shaiva Tantra.
So Shaiva
Tantra. You have not
Tantra,
spoken to anyone apart from this show.
Yes, I think generally I've never really spoken about Shaiva Tantra because over the many years, the identification that I was given is that I particularly stick to the Vedas.
Yes,
but I give equal importance to both, because as I said, they are really two sides of the same coin. They are really two sides of the same coin to me. So when we apply the mantras in a particular way, so in Shaiva Tantra, the amazing experience that I have is to really link with a deity at a very, very personal level. Like invoking a particular deity, creating a sankalpa, creating a reality that we want, using particular mantras, or using particular potentials in the Vedas are a series of sounds.
Right.
So we identify some specific potentials within this series and we condense them to what we refer to as bija mantras, seed mantras, which can be really very much we can apply to the rituals that we are using. So let us say we want to drive off some entity as in we want to to put it simple, let's say we want to perform a puja, so we have to make sure that the space is cleansed.
Yeah.
So the way to cleanse, the mudras that we do, the kriyas that we do, the gestures that we do, yes, and understanding how we condense the abstract into a form and bring it back to the abstract state. And the one which the real fascinating part in Tantra for me is becoming the deity. Because this was highlighted in the Vedas when I was learning, because they always say that when you want to recite, for example, Rudram, they always say that when you want to recite Rudram, you must become Rudra. So I probably never had, so I saw it as a state of Advaita. But Tantra gives you the step-by-step ritual to actually experience that state. So from energizing, from consecrating your hand into the deity and using your hands to consecrate every part of your body so that you reflect and resemble that deity.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
So that's personally, that's my favorite part of Tantra, because it is rooted in the philosophy that I'm attached to, which is Advaita. So become the deity and worship the deity.
And that is actually the main goal of spirituality in whichever way we take it, isn't it? Because any other part is very intellectual.
Yes.
Or it is a part of your ego realization, or a part of the society at any given juncture defines it. But I think this is the only way it makes it complete.
Yes, exactly.
Because you do not negate who you are.
Yes.
And you do not try to understand it saying I'm a part of this and that is separate.
Yes.
And you become different.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
So it's very beautifully put and described.
Yes.
So can you get us to that experience with one of your sharings? What was that moment like?
Okay, so as I'll quote the Paddhati. So the Shaiva Tantra, the Paddhati itself, I know it has a very beautiful.
Paddhati means method, yeah?
Yes, yes. So the Tantric scriptures, they have main scriptures, and there were ancient Shivacharyas who created manuals based on the main Mula Agama.
Okay.
Or Mula Tantric scriptures, and they were referred as Paddhati. And even now, every temple will function according to the rules of that Paddhati.
That have been laid out for them.
So there's a very beautiful shloka which goes, Yat Devam Archayet Tvat Tat Atma Bhavana. Means,
beautiful.
Yes, you become the deity you will want to worship. Because it is stated that you cannot worship a deity unless you become that, you bring yourself to that state.
Right.
Yes, so it's very beautiful in a sense where externally it may look like a simple puja, but when you do it in the right manner, meaning when you purify yourself, you remove the sense of I, the ego, and you go into that Advaitic state, and when you perform the ritual, it creates a very strong sense of oneness. You merge and you play, you relate to the deity at a very personal level.
Right.
So the deity is no longer up in the seventh heavens. He's there with you, sitting like you and me.
Yes.
And that's the most beautiful experience, and I think that's only available in our tradition. That's a gift from our tradition.
That's true.
And that reflects to many of our historical stories where a lot of the saints interacted with deities at a very personal level. So that's it's very colorful to think of.
That's my favorite part as well, even in my experience, and I would like to bring that whole part alive in our next conversation about that. So before we end the session, is there anything that you would like to guide people on if they have to reach out to you or to learn Vedas or Shaiva Agamas?
Currently, it may sound aberrant, but it works best because I have I've tried all methods of teaching, live classes, one-to-one video learning, and see, I'm reaching out to people who lead a very normal life. Like we go to work, we have our own schedule, and a lot of us, we never naturally had the choice to get enrolled in a Gurukula, to have a yes. But that can be done because we are now, it's a global world now. I don't have to come to your proximity to actually communicate with you. Right. I can do it through a text, I can do it through a voice note. So I guide aspirants who are interested in that manner. So I do it through WhatsApp, where someone is available with me 24/7. Right? So every step, whatever I do in a one-to-one session, I will do it through my voice notes and my personalized notes and get a step-to-step guidance. So it happens in a very gradual
intimate way.
Yes, intimate one-to-one. and on a daily basis.
Right.
Yes.
Yes, I can testify for that. It's beautiful.
Yes.
Okay, one last question, and we are going to close this session. So you're a medical professional, right? And you're so much heavily involved with this spiritual reality around. How do you integrate these two realities as an individual? Because you're working, you're perhaps going to perform a surgery, you're going to attend to a patient. Your language, your explanations have to be driven by what is expected out of a doctor. But at the same time, you're living in a reality, you're integrating yourself with a deity. So how has that become Vinnit, for example, as an experience altogether?
Okay, so though externally they appear as two completely different parts, so my interest in medicine is as intense as the interest I have in this Tantra and Vedas. And the unifying factor is, I would say, the idea of loving. And love can only come when there's a sense of oneness. So when we say love now, people think it as a superficial aspect. But love basically means you have oneness, and oneness means the sense of duality ceases to exist. So when let's say I perform a particular, let's say I recite Rudram in the Vedas. So the experience of that Rudram will be identifying every aspect of nature and every being as Rudra himself. When I sit for puja for Lord Shiva, I have to first transform myself into Sadashiva. So subconsciously I have to tune myself to that aspect, that qualities of Sadashiva every day, even if it's temporary, because every time we perform a ritual, we get into that state and we leave that state. Because as an individual, I'm not godly. Okay? So it's a temporary elevation, but that temporary elevation will will plant a seed of consciousness which will enable me to experience that oneness. So, and that oneness in me will start getting reflected in everyone. So everyone meaning students or patients. So that enables me to operate in a right context. Rather than a profession, it gives me it's like the external world is a playground for me to exercise the experience which I have gained through the puja. So that's a bit of a challenge, and I feel that in that sense both are one. They are no different.
Yes, I think principally they are one, but my question is, I understand the dichotomy you will have, because not every doctor has the same knowledge of this. Okay,
Yes.
this is a very ideal combination, I would say, of the modern science coming in contact with the spiritual science. You know, not a pseudoscience, but a spiritual science. It's a very beautiful combination that you represent.
Yes.
And I'm not saying it because you're here in front of me talking to me, but what I meant to ask you is, how do you integrate this experience? Like, do you have some experience of a deity talking to you while you're interacting with a patient, perhaps, or with fellow doctors, and you're communicating with them in a scientific language, in the language that the doctors understand. But your knowledge and your intelligence is actually filtered through the spiritual part of it. You've had that kind of experience?
Right now, deity communication happens quite specifically during rituals, or when it's spiritually oriented, I would say. But workplace or normal living, it may just reflect as an intuition. So it's not that every part of mine is guided. I undergo confusion. I undergo everything which anyone else.
It is human, very human.
Yes, but the point is, rather than waiting, it's rather than waiting for a deity to give direct probably words or revelation, it is probably a guidance for me to tune myself so that I completely stay in a state of oneness. So when we do a particular nyasa in Tantra, that experience should be
like centering you, which makes you perform everything.
Yes. So when I do that, probably I can see that consciousness, whichever name we call it with, working in every individual. And at times, the greatest bliss happens when I realize that I'm not the doer. No one is the doer. So every patient heals himself. So let's say he has a fractured bone. When the surgeons perform surgery, they will align the bones together, but the healing happens within the patient.
Right.
The bone heals by itself. We probably just facilitate. So what the innate nature of the patient to heal himself, that is coming from this consciousness which is very much alive in everyone.
Right.
Which I would see as Sadashiva in Tantra, or Devi in Devi Suktam. So,
beautiful.
Yes. So that may be not be it's challenge. It's a big challenge to do that. But at least probably I feel that the intuition will help me to tune myself. It's a reminder. So if something goes wrong or the way which I don't like, probably it's a reminder that I should get tuned to the right cognition and the right experience of oneness.
Wow. I think it's a, how do I say, it's a very picture perfect idea. Vaidyo Harihi Narayana, how people say that.
Yes.
And they give that kind of reverence because that Vaidya or the doctor has that particular gift of donating life, literally. And today's modern medicine, I think this could be a very ideal solution, what you just offered.
Yes.
Not in fight with each other, but integrating. Yeah,
Yes.
the practicality of the application, but inherently falling back and absorbing so much of vast wisdom,
Yes.
which makes this whole thing so juicy, so alive, and so right in conduct. So I can't wait to have you on our next show with the topic of the Shaiva Agama and the Vedas.
Yes.
In a little more of detail,
Yes.
and to get to know you a little more personally.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes, Shaiva Tantra. Yes, excited to, looking forward. But again, Shaiva Tantra, even I would also remind that even I am exploring because it's huge.
Yes.
It's huge, and my, as my Acharya said, he's Someshekara Shivacharya, Shri Someshekara Shivacharya. So he's, to really fully explore Tantra, it takes a lot of enormous...
Many lifetimes.
Yes.
As you know,
Yes.
When somebody used to ask me, how long have you been knowing the mantras? I said, yes, from my childhood actually, 25 years plus, I've been into Sanskrit. I still cannot say I know fully.
Yes, exactly.
Because it's so vast that really when you know it, you can't really claim that I know it.
Yes, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So, of course, we have the complete honesty about the things that we don't know, but the things that we know, we're going to share.
Yes, exactly.
Full of our hearts.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, the sharing is what, it excites. And
Yes.
Yes.
So thank you so much, Vinnit, for
Thank
coming.
you so much for inviting.
And
I truly
answering
enjoyed.
so truthfully and beautifully.
Thank you. Truly enjoyed the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Namaste.